Welcome back to the State and Local Sports Show. We're here with Cal High Sports editor and co-founder Mark Tennis. It is Holy Bowl Week 2016. That is the 209 area code Holy Bowl. It's certainly not the only Holy Bowl in this region or across the country. We have state number 9 St. Mary's at 2-0, heading to state number 25 Central Catholic of Modesto at 1-1 after a loss last week at the Honor Bowl. That's at 7 p.m. on Friday night, and it's the rare, cool occurrence when two state top 25s face off, and that's even more rare in the less or the more sparsely populated Northern California scene. I mean, over the years, I wouldn't guess you see this high profile of a matchup in Northern California too often.
It's about actually maybe once every other week, and we actually look for these. So we don't try to set them up, but we know they're coming. Because one of the things we try to do in the rankings is look ahead, not just look back. And so this week you have, there could have been an opportunity to drop Central Catholic all the way out of the rankings this week after their loss to Cathedral Catholic of San Diego, but we know they're playing St. Mary's, so why not leave them in? So we leave them in at number 25, and we know they're going to play. We know they're good, and there's a lot of give and take you can do with a team 24-25. And this week we also had moved in Bellarmine of San Jose up to number 23, and there are a lot of people in the Bay Area that have Pittsburgh higher, but one of the reasons we put Bellarmine in there is because they're playing Del Oro on Friday in San Jose, and Del Oro's number 10. So a lot of times the two top 25s meeting are done. I wouldn't say they're done necessarily on purpose, but we do move teams around and move teams up and move teams around based on the schedule, not just of what they've done so far, but who they're going to play down the road. And that's one of the reasons St. Mary's has moved up a little bit. We know they're playing St. John Bosco 2 weeks later, on top of playing Central Catholic this week.
And St. Mary's now, like I mentioned, number 9 in the state rankings. Out of all those, I believe number 2 among Northern California teams after Milpitas upset Antioch last week. Now, you've been to a Holy Bowl before. I know it wasn't at Central, I believe you were telling me. What was your take on the environment? It's the first time for me heading this Friday.
Yeah, I went to a St. Mary's Central Catholic game at St. Mary's a couple years ago, and it was a really good atmosphere. It wasn't like spectacular playoff type atmosphere, but I'm expecting it to be a playoff type atmosphere on Friday night, and it should be very similar to last year when Central Catholic hosted Oakdale. And people remember both of those teams were 9-0, and there was a lot of interest. And whenever you get two 9-0s to end the regular season playing each other, it's huge. And there was a huge crowd there. The sidelines were lined. It was a crazy atmosphere, and that's what I'm expecting for this game.
Now, when you look at this game, any prediction for you? I think St. Mary's a little bit too balanced. The passing attack is just too good. I'd say they win probably by 10 points, 38-28 or so. The Modesto Bees guys were split. James Burns took Central Catholic. Joe Cortez took St. Mary's. How about you?
I'm taking St. Mary's. I really like the points they put up against Sarah in their first game. Sarah is, they don't give up 63 points very often, a West Catholic League team. So I think they have a little bit too much firepower. I think Central Catholic has a chance if they can kind of slow the game down and maybe run the ball a little bit and keep the St. Mary's offense on the sidelines, that kind of an approach. But I also think St. Mary's just too much firepower, and their defensive line is pretty solid too. So I'm going like 42-30, 42-35, something like that.
Another 5 new head coaches this year in San Joaquin County. Chris Musselman over at Ripon does have a win. They beat Galt last week. But Chavez Latif Grimm, Edison's Booker Guyton, Lincoln's Anthony Martinez, Brookside Christian's Jordan McGowan, all seeking their first victory. Those 4 are combined 0-7 right now. And Lincoln specifically a bit up against it. They head to state number 15 Elk Grove this week. Likely a loss if you look at it on paper at least. That would leave Lincoln at 0-3, needing a 6-1 finish to guarantee a playoff bid. With that 6-4 mark, this has happened to them with their schedule before. As we were talking about, they thought they were going to beat Pittman of Turlock. They were up late, and now they're up against it. When you look at their schedule, did they overdo it, given they're trying to build back to what they used to be, or is it still too early to tell?
I don't think they overdid it. I think playing Antioch and Elk Grove obviously were looking like losses, but I think in their minds and a lot of people's minds, they were probably going to maybe probably beat Pittman, and so that's the game that really sort of hurts them. On the other hand, the rest of their schedule, they do have a good chance to go 6-1. They're obviously playing St. Mary's, which is the most likely another loss, but the other games are all definitely winnable. The key game will be, of course, Tracy, which is a game they won last year. So all of that is doable, and we'll just see what happens.
Mark Tennis does a weekly column for The Record and RecordNet.com. And a fascinating topic this week, if you don't mind teasing a bit to it, about some local volleyball history.
I'm actually going to be doing more volleyball this year on Cal High Sports, and just found out today that we're going to be doing a Fab 50 national ranking for flowsports.com, similar to what we do for softball for Flow Sports. So I'm going to be getting into more volleyball both statewide and nationally. And so started looking up some of the volleyball history that kind of got me motivated to look up some of that stuff. And, it's been since 2000 that we've had a team from the Stockton area in a state final. But before that, there were teams that had a really, close to a lot of history. Probably the biggest discovery in looking through my notes and everything was looking at that both Carrie Walsh Jennings and Misty May, two of the biggest names in the history of volleyball. Their last two high school matches were in state championships against Stockton schools. Misty May's team at Newport Harbor won in the state finals. They won in the state finals over Lincoln, and then St. Mary's lost the next year in 1995 to Mitty in a match played at Cal State Fullerton. Now, that was really weird. Two NorCal teams in a state final, but in the mid-'90s, the CIF tried to experiment with cross-matching their semifinalists, North and South. They were thinking they were trying to get two SoCal teams playing in a state final in Southern California to get a bigger crowd. But at least that one year, 1995, it just blew up in their face as two NorCal teams won in the semis and played in the South. And that year, St. Mary's actually almost beat Mitty. They forced it to a fifth game and lost 15-10. But they played very well, and so Carrie Walsh's last high school match was against St. Mary's, and it was a great effort by St. Mary's in an upset bid. And so some of that other soft volleyball stuff was looked up some of the information about Linden and their state championships. It's all in there, kind of a volleyball history column.
The NFL season begins tonight. Denver and Carolina in the Super Bowl rematch. Of course, hundreds, probably thousands over the years of NFL alumni from California. Looking at the quarterbacks this year, I know you were excited about some of the quarterbacks from California, especially one from Santa Margarita.
Yeah, of course, you have Tom Brady from Sarah, who missing the first 4 weeks, and Aaron Rodgers from Pleasant Valley, and two of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, both from California and Northern California. But I'm really kind of looking forward to the Arizona Cardinals and Carson Palmer. Carson is still the best quarterback I've ever seen in high school, and that includes some of the guys like Jake Browning, includes guys like Josh Rosen. Carson just had a complete package in high school when he was at Santa Margarita. Then he went on to win the Heisman Trophy. Then he goes in the pros. He's had some injury problems. He's been with the Bengals, been with the Raiders, and the last few years with the Cardinals has really seen his totals start to really go up. And if you look at some of the all-time totals in the NFL for touchdowns and yards, Carson's in the top 20 and moving up on a lot of them. So I think if he has one more good year statistically, and, for example, if Arizona does win the Super Bowl, like a lot of people predict that they will, he's going to have a Super Bowl ring on top of everything else. And then I think he's really a legitimate, maybe close to first ballot Hall of Famer. And I think his career is definitely heading in that direction. And for his sake, I've met him a couple times, and I hope it does go that way for him.
All right, you can head on over to calhighsports.com, the Gold Club membership, all of your insider content, state record books, rankings, less than $20 a year, less than $2 a month, and we'll see you at Holy Bowl tomorrow night.
I think we'll be there with a lot of other media.